Just looking over here, this is the Board of Education building. And over there, they're interviewing someone from the Board of Education. And I was just thinking about, what kind of luck would I have talking to those people about zero luck. Zero luck. This comes to the idea of being ripe. Like a tomato becomes ripe and then it's ready to eat. And ripeness is also a factor when it comes to human beings and what they're ready for. If you're going to give someone a teaching about the Matrix, maybe, the idea that we live in the Matrix, like the movie The Matrix. Generally speaking, people are not really open to talking that it's real, because in their world they're very limited. This guy is limited because he's expecting other humans that send their children to this Board of Education don't want to hear a bunch of stuff that doesn't sound like what they learned when they went to this Board of Education. So people are very much trapped by the beliefs that were put into them at a very young age. In order to get people ready for something different, a different explanation altogether, where they want to throw a lot of what they learned when they were a kid out the window, you're going to have to get them when they're ripe. Now, here are some sunflowers that are ripe. Look how tall they are. They're twice as tall as this man here. Very tall. Those are ripe sunflowers. So, and I was thinking, as far as teaching people about, all the lies that are prominent. People are, they're out here in the middle of the forest of sunflowers, and they're still wearing the goddamn masks. I still see people driving around in their vehicles with the windows up, and there's like two people in there and they're both wearing a mask. Many times I've seen like one person in the car with the windows up wearing a mask as they're driving. How are you going to help these people? These are lazy-minded people, in my opinion. Lazy-minded people. They're very much relying on whatever they learned years ago and whatever the authority figures in their life are telling them. And they're very lazy. They don't critically think about what's going on. They just want to be told what to do. They are human slaves. And I got to tell you, at this Board of Education, they're in the business of creating human slaves. Now, a few times, perhaps in an English class, they might talk about critical thinking, but it's really not given to you in every class. Why? Well, when I'm thinking of mathematics classes at high school, how can you implement any kind of critical thinking on what they're teaching you when they're ramming it down your throat? Do you remember math classes in high school? They ram it down your throat. This is how you do it. This is what it is. This is the problem. This is the answer. And then we're going to move on to the next topic. They ram it and cram it down your throat, and there's no time to critically think about it. There's no time even to understand it. I remember it's like they teach you something new, and the next day, when you're in the math class, you don't have it. You don't understand it. It should have been like something that they teach in half a class, they should have spent a week on. No one's going to get it. Not even the smart kids are going to understand it as fast as they're ramming it down your throat. And then afterwards, you live a life, you know, and you become middle-aged crazy, and you say, you know, all this stuff that they rammed down my throat in math class in high school, I've never used it in my real life in all these decades of life. Never used it. Is it interesting? I'm interested in those mathematical things. I am. I can't remember. I can't remember too much about them. And so I feel like I've been ripped off. I've been ripped off because it was all rammed into, and you know, there was no chance to go critically think about it. What would we say about that? Well, you really have to have time to ponder these things, to gather questions about it. And there's no time allowed for you to ponder these things. They're just going to ram something else down your throat. So, you know, you become used to this way. It's like my teacher is going to ram shit down my throat, and, you know, then I got to cram for the test and then forget about it. And then you take the same attitude to employment. People at employment, they want to be trained. Train me like I'm a trained chimp. That's what they want, training. They want to be the chimp. And then, you know, you do the chimp job for a while, and then you say, you know, this really isn't suitable for a human being to do this. I always bring up the example of the checkout people at Walmart. It's like demeaning to humans to stand there and run these, you know, they got a scanner and, you know, pick up the cauliflower and run it through a scanner and do it for 8 hours, day after day after day. And, you know, you're a trained chimp. But this is a disservice to those Walmart checkout people, treating them like trained chimps. It's a disservice to humanity that this is what we've got in store for the children when they grow up. There is so much potential in each individual human, and it is not brought out. And I condemn the school systems for what they do. And seriously, I condemn, well, the whole system. The other thing I noticed today, Walmart and Amazon have never made more money as during this COVID thing. Who profits from COVID? Huge, huge businesses. Multinational businesses. And who lost? A lot of small family-owned businesses went belly up. Little stores all going belly up because they were forced to close for so long. I heard of another one that was going to be closed. So many stores have closed in my town because of this. So who's behind the COVID-19? I don't know. Sounds like Amazon or Walmart are behind it because they profited enormously. They've gained market share, and you know, like I said, so and if you're going to go and look at it, that's the kind of jobs. You work as a checkout girl, you can't even afford to buy the shit they sell at Walmart. Critical thinking. And you can be a critical thinker and criticize it all, and then people say, I've had enough of your criticism, and they turn on Lester Holt and listen to his fucking lies. I always say Lester Holt, but in Canada it's the same thing. The Canadian news is full of scumbags that'll lie, and they have no critical thinking. They just love to collect their paycheck, smile at you, and tell you, oh, by the way, the US border to Canada is going to be closed for another month. 7 months into this, and we still have a closed border. I'll be on here a year from now, and I'm going to say the border's still closed. How long is this going to go on? Centuries? Once they've justified it in the sheeple's mind that this is what we have to do, the sheeple, just as trained chimps, sure, we're going to go along with this.